Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. They did turn it on. Woo! Welcome to Dubai. Oh, come on, that's not passionate. Give me a little bit more. Welcome to Dubai. That's better. It is the crossroads of the world. It's a really amazing place. You know, I collect stuff from Babylon and Sumeria. And everything that's old is new again. It's all moving back here. You know, we have such an amazing group of people from all over the world, from Japan, from South Korea, from Brazil, from Argentina, from America, Canada, all places of Europe. You're all here. Not too long ago, Cardano was very small, but we had a great vision. We had kind of three principles here, so we're just going to have a whiteboard again. How about that? You guys like whiteboards? So we had this idea of a third-generation cryptocurrency, and there was this concept of scalability. We cared a lot about it. Second, we had this concept of governance or sustainability, on-chain governance. And the third idea was interoperability. So if you think about what we've achieved over the last 7 years, 193 papers, millions of lines of code, massive international movement, so many people building, so many people excited to participate, all these billions of transactions, millions of currencies, NFTs and other things issued on chain, hundreds of dApps, many of which you get to see right over there. It's pretty remarkable. And we're just getting started. When you look at scale, we have all these cool things that are either being incubated or already reached mainnet. So there's people from the Hydra project here. And Hydra is coming along. It's an amazing piece of technology to be a middleware in every single dApp that matters, to allow us to scale. We have amazing things like BLS support that's coming in with Plutus 3. 15 plus crypto primitives are being added. That gives you the ability to add roll-ups, all kinds of cool zero-knowledge structures, things like that. A lot of you know and love input endorsers. Huge amount of research is being done with input endorsers. In 2021, we did a lot of benchmarking. We said, this is the thing to bet on. The next 5, 10 years, that's what's going to get us where we need to go. So Ouroboros Laos is there. We've thought a lot about how to add features like fast finality. You know, turns out that people like that. It's a pretty good idea. Okay, so we have a little something called Ouroboros Paris. Wonderful team of people working on that. And when you look at this whole thing, you say to yourself, over the coming months and years, we're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. Ouroboros, at the end of the day, was so far ahead of its time that people are just now starting to realize the magic and power of it. Liquid non-custodial staking, no slashing, no bonding. And it was built in a way, it was built to be upgraded. Things were built to be added to it. So I'm pretty confident we're going to achieve scale, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to do that together. Now, it takes time. Didn't think Genesis would take this long. Didn't think it'd take this long to change out the VRF. Turns out I'm not as good at estimates, software estimates, as I thought I was. That's okay. But you know, we did it together. We learned together. And that part of the third generation is okay. This year, huge amount has been done with SIP 1694. And we said there are 3 pillars to this concept. You had one pillar, and that was the idea of a tripartite governance model. So we have this concept of DREPs, a constitutional committee, and stake pool operators, and 7 different governance actions, everything from spending the funds of a treasury, the Cardano treasury, which is quite large, to upgrading the protocol, hard fork accommodator. And you know what? Over 50 workshops have been held all around the world, more than 20 countries, where you guys came together and had a large amount of say over how that ought to look for a concept of minimum viable governance. This idea of good enough to get started, but certainly not good enough as the final say in the matter. On-chain governance, it's hard. It's really interesting. But what's so beautiful about it is it's not a concept anymore. It's a reality through SanchoNet. People are playing with it. They're experimenting with it just like they did with the Plutus Pioneer program, just like they did with the stake pool pioneer programs, the incentivized test net, these types of things. It'll get done in one way or another. Might not look exactly the way that everybody thought, might look that way. The point is that just like scalability, it's no longer a question of can we do this, we'll figure out a way to get good on-chain governance. B was institutions. Turns out that the things around cryptocurrencies are incredibly hard. There's a lot of moving pieces to them. You got budgets, product backlogs, you got dozens of things that people have to think about every single day that are nuanced and delicate, require subject matter expertise. They require people to deeply understand not only the technology, but things like the economics behind the technology, the design decisions behind the technology. We should never, for a moment, think you can elect your way to subject matter expertise. You hire that, you institutionalize that, and they work together as partners. So Intersect was set up. You see the big booth for it outside. Again, last year when I spoke, I said, in Switzerland, we ought to do something like this. Now it's incorporated. There's a booth. You know it's real because they got swag. It's pretty cool, actually, and hundreds of people from all around the community are coming together, and we now have working groups, steering committees, all kinds of things that are forming, and they're talking a lot about the roadmap of Cardano. So things like the budget. What ought we spend money on to be approved by the government of Cardano? You know, things like the roadmap. What ought to be a priority? You want to speed this up a little bit, or are you comfortable with the current rate of progress? If you want to speed it up, are you okay with spending another $10 million? Maybe 5, 2.5, split the difference. Y'all want Circle support? Maybe we pay them. You know, there's lots of stuff there. A lot of moving pieces there. It's complicated stuff. Institutions allow you to have those complicated conversations and eventually get to a point where you think there's something that's pretty good, and then you have democratic consent. You have a governing system on chain that allows you to do that. Are we done? No. You need something else. There's this problem with self-amendment. Anybody ever play Monopoly? All right, show of hands. Monopoly. Yeah, everybody. House rule a lot of people make is that when you land on Go, you get twice as much money, $400 instead of $200. Okay, seems pretty innocent. You change the rule of the system. Turns out Peter Suber thought about this a lot. He wrote a lovely book in the late 80s, early 90s called The Paradox of Self-Amendment. It turns out that when you have a game or system, a governing system, and you give people the power to change that system from within the system, while you can do amazing things, you can do some pretty crazy stuff too. Like what if you pass a law in your Monopoly game that every time Bob lands on Boardwalk, he gets $1 million? Great for Bob, bad for you. So you need something in the rule-changing system. We call these typically constitutions. They can have other terms, but basically guardrails that prevent you from using the governance system to blow up the system quickly. No self-amending system can save itself forever, but at least you can slow down the madness a little bit. When you put these three things together, you have what we call minimum viable governance. There are hundreds of people all around the world, more than 30 countries, working diligently from many different organizations, overrepresented in the community, to realize these types of things. And there's a lot of great and beautiful ideas. And 2024 is all about turning those things on and getting us to a point where governance works well on Cardano. Great. You notice something, though, and this is really the core of what I'm talking about today, is this idea of interoperability. This is something we don't talk too much about. And we ought to, because interoperability is the difference between living on an island and living in a world. Interoperability is the difference between your phone connecting or not connecting. Interoperability is the difference between your software working and your software not working. We live in a global society. Billions of consumers, trillions of lines of code, billions of consumer devices, and all kinds of philosophies and paradigms. When things are interoperable, everything just kind of works seamlessly. It talks to each other, stuff connects together. We just get used to it as consumers. We love it. It's magic. It's special. The problem that we have in the cryptocurrency industry is that tokenomics incentivize a lack of interoperability because it's a sum-zero game. The way that tokenomics work is that if Ethereum goes up or Solana goes up, well, maybe that means Cardano goes down or vice versa. We're trained by CoinMarketCap to look at these things as competitors, not as potential partners for us to work with to co-equal, have customers together. And it's kind of funny because the entire point of this space is decentralization. The entire point of this space is supposed to be to push power to the edges for everyone everywhere, not pick an arbitrary thing and only that thing is okay and everything else is evil, and if you believe otherwise, you are also evil and should be destroyed. Call that maximalism. Team Orange has really mastered that, and their High Cleric Max Kaiser loves saying these things. But we're better than that. Third generation is not just about bringing amazing science together and amazing ideas together with the community. It's not just about innovating governance and bringing 200 years of political science and good thought and open source governance together. It's about coming up with a new way to present interoperability. So if you read Why Cardano back in the day, I wrote it in 2016. I write things every now and then. It's not just AMAs. I had this idea of CSL and CCL. And the concept of this was kind of like, okay, we have this main chain, and then we have all these side chains, these other things that are floating around. And these CCLs, these control layers or computation layers, basically what they're going to do is they're going to have different philosophies about how things ought to run. Because it turns out that if you're running a decentralized telecommunications protocol, or a decentralized large language model, or AI stack, or a supply chain stack, or an IoT stack, or a privacy layer, whatever it might be, that all the design decisions that we made down here that make this awesome and preserve and protect that may actually get in the way of the things that you want to do. Also, how do you price things? You think about cloud services. A lot of you are developers in this room. You've probably used Amazon. You've probably used Azure. You've probably used all these wonderful cloud products. How traumatic would it be to your business that you wake up and suddenly your business, your hosting costs are 3 times more expensive, 5 times more expensive, and the next day they're half price? You have no consistency or predictability. Would the world work well? Would you make profits? Could you even look at your investors in the face and say, oh yeah, don't worry about it, here's our financial projection? It's chaos. So the problem is that if you overload your base layer of your system, you're not in essence going to be able to service the needs of a global economy that's diverse, heterogeneous, and complex. We knew this, and because we're Cardano, we knew this before the other people did. We wrote that down in 2016. We said, hey, this is a problem. We need to solve that. So we saved the best for last. We solve governance and scale. We know what to do as a community. We're going to get it done. 1,000 conversations. I'm not worried about it. But now let's solve interoperability, and let's teach the rest of the space how to do that well. So true to form, we had lots of teams of people working diligently every single day to try to explore how to build some notion of a sidechain ecosystem. We started with the OG of sidechains, Blockstream. They wrote this lovely paper in 2014, and Team Orange told all of us, well, in 2 years' time, sidechains is going to kill everybody. So 2016 has already passed, so I guess we're all dead, right? All right. So they introduced the concept of sidechains. You know what we did? We said, wait a minute, they didn't actually tell us how to do it. So we fixed it for them. You're welcome, Adam. We wrote something called Nipapaus. You guys remember Nipapaus? Cool little name. Great name for a Tasmanian tiger. Nipapaus. We learned a lot. We also had all these amazing projects we looked at, like we joined Hyperledger. We looked at Fabric. We created Mamba. You guys remember Mamba back in the day? We had 2 flavors. We had the EVM flavor, and we had this weird flavor called Yella that was written by a strange Romanian man. Okay, what else did we do? We looked at Cosmos. We had a whole team of people doing diligence there. And then we also looked at parity. Parity in particular was really interesting. There were some good ideas there. And we said, if we take all these guys here, these things, Fabric Mamba, the EVM stuff, the Yella stuff, if we really squint our eyes and think deeply about it, maybe, just maybe, we start pulling some things together. I remember something Steve Jobs said in the late 90s. It was shortly after he came back to Apple. At the time, Apple was suing Microsoft. It was going at them hard. And Apple was dying. It was about 120 days, maybe if you stretch it out a little bit, about 300 days away from bankruptcy. So he called up Bill Gates and he said, Bill, that whole DOJ thing, if we go out of business, you have like 100% of the market. That would be a kind of a problem for you, right? Bill said, yeah, that'd be a problem. He said, maybe you should buy some Apple stock. I don't know, $300 million worth, just because it's great to be part of our family. And Bill said, I'll do that. But, maybe you guys should have Internet Explorer be your browser. Steve said, come again? They did it. So Steve had to go out and tell Apple, after 10 years of bare-knuckle bloody brawls with the Apple community, hey guys, we're partnered with Microsoft now. But you know what? He did it. And the rest is history. They had the iPod, the iMac, the iPhone, everything. I guess he was iCEO for a while too, right? Interim CEO. Multi-trillion-dollar company. Because what he realized is partnering doesn't mean that you give up who you are. Partnering means that you give who you are to the rest of the space. They actually, for the first time ever, get to see you for who you are. So I thought a lot about how do I put pieces of technology together where we preserve and protect the stuff up here. And the fact that Cardano has never failed in 5 years. It's always been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's become effectively the root of trust of the entire cryptocurrency space. There is no engine better. There is no code better than what we've written. But combine that with paradigms from outside of our space, which is why for years we flirted with concepts like the EVM and Yella. It's why we looked at Fabric and Cosmos and Parity. So then I said, well, how do I put all that together in a uniquely Cardano way? And then it dawned upon me. We wrote a paper called Minotaur. And boy, this is special. This is perhaps, I wish we could patent stuff because Jesus, I would. This is probably the best thing we've ever written in the history of our company because this ends the fight forever about interoperability. You have the Bitcoin people, they say, proof of work. And we all say, proof of stake, proof of work, proof of stake. What if you put them together? And what if you could put N consensus algorithms together? You could put them all together. What if you could run multiple consensus protocols all together in the same system? How about that? Wouldn't that be magical? There's no debate anymore. And what if we could combine that concept with all this other magic that we've been studying for years and put it together with the best blockchain building framework that's on the market right now, Parity? Put those pieces together and put Minotaur on top. Now you're cooking with oil. It's good. We got something special. So we wrote this paper in 2021. It was a collaboration of University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and Pramod and University of Washington. Pramod went to Princeton. We had some amazing people like Matthias on this and Agalos. And we've now been exploring on basically an RD, how to get that into this. And you know what? I said it would be really cool to have a flagship product, something very special and very unique to showcase the power of that type of system. So we thought around and we said, all right, well, all this regulation's coming, and all these roll-ups are coming, all this snark technology's coming. People want to put identity into the applications. Why don't we take all that 5 years of zero-knowledge research we did that we stole from Cambridge and other places, we put it all in one layer and put Minotaur into it, and we call it Midnight. Y'all been asking about that a lot over Twitter. So, interoperability. Let's talk about it. Oh, they didn't give me an eraser. Well, I guess they did. It's up here. That's cool. You guys all right if I erase this? Yeah, all right. Take your pictures. Oh, that doesn't erase at all. Does it flip? Will it flip? I think it will. Ah, ingenuity. All right. Let's talk about partner chains. First off, let's change some names. We called originally Cardano the Cardano settlement layer. So let's call it now the CASL, because we just keep changing stuff, right? Cardano assets and settlement layer. Great. And instead of calling these things control or computation layers, let's call them CSLs. The new CSL. So much better than the old one. Cardano service layers. So basically, interoperability, if you're really clever and you're really smart, what you do is you have a blockchain building framework. So we'll call it the Cardano Partner Chain Framework, the CPS. And what this framework does is it'll have Minotaur built under the hood, and that framework will give you the ability to have multi-resource consensus. So the SPOs here, what they can do is they can provide security to these chains, almost like a layer 2. But like a side chain, you also can have your own consensus algorithms, and like interoperability, suddenly you can borrow security from other systems, real time, like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, like Polkadot, and others as they get added. What does that mean? If you have tokens here, the tokens can pay the stake pool operators here, but suddenly they also can pay the stake pool people here, the miners here, and the miners here. What does that mean? It means that we all have a financial incentive to like each other now. No one else does this. See, the problem with all these frameworks, the way they're written, whether it be Cosmos or Parity, you check in, but you can't check out. You're stuck. You're locked into it. When you have a system like this, and you can change your consensus on the fly, what that means is if you don't like Ethereum anymore, if Vitalik said some weird stuff or something, you just get rid of it. Yeah. Bitcoin, I'm now an environmentalist. I hate mining. Yeah, there we go. And you just add other shit, right? Maybe you're just Cardano maxi, and you're like, we just love Cardano so much, so we're just going to do that. And, and maybe, just maybe, Cardano really pissed you off. I tweeted something you really don't like. Often do that. Come on, let's be honest. Yeah, you maybe just go to proof of work. You just go down that road or something like that and leave. The ecosystem on the service layer gets the freedom to decide that. They have the freedom of movement because that's what interoperability should be about. Standards and freedom liberate you to do what's best for your projects. They liberate you to think about what's best for these things. Now, if you add this with one other clever innovation, a dual token model, then what you can do is start exploring something really clever and cool. You can treat the token that's on the side chain, the service layer, the partner chain. I promise you we'll unify the language one day. They're partner chains. As your resource. And you can start talking about different monetary policies that give you predictable pricing. So suddenly you don't wake up with a 3x or 5x in your operational cost for that service, whether it be a privacy chain or a decentralized large language model or a nameless decentralized telecommunication company, which may or may not be here. Quiet you. You can have a resource for that. It's great. It's magic. But you also can have, as a Cardano native asset on the main chain, the thing that controls governance, maintenance, consensus, these types of things. So that can follow deflationary policy, for example, like Cardano does, Bitcoin does, or others. So you split the monetary policy. You don't overload your asset, which means you get the best of all worlds. You get liquidity, decentralization, fast bootstrap, just magic. It's incredible. Yet you still have freedom. Why do we do this? Because at the end of the day, if Cardano is to win and become number one, we have to take the brilliance of all of the industry and make it our own. Cardano plus this framework, just like Microsoft plus Apple in the 90s, is basically 100% of the market. There's no more extended UTXO versus EVM. We got it all. That's what we're doing. And that's what real interoperability is. And why will the industry let us do it? Well, because we pay them. That's how business works, right? They make money, we make money. Had Microsoft held on to those Apple shares, they would have made tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, by the way. Just saying. So this is pretty magic. And it's what we've been working on in the lab and in practice now for years. And we have done so many amazing experiments. But experiments are not reality. So I thought it was super important to have something to show everybody that is launching next week in DevNet. And I want to invite on stage a very good friend of mine. His name is Ram Barak. He is the CEO of the Midnight Project. And he's one of the partner chains building that service. And he's going to come up here and tell you guys a little bit about what makes it so special. And what's really cool is as he builds, we evolve, and we get closer and closer to that interoperability. And that framework is your framework. So many dApps can now move into this domain, especially in the GameFi space, the IoT space, especially in the supply chain space, and all around. So come on up, Barak.
Thank you, Charles. Very excited to be here. I see a lot of friends. I hope you're friends. Midnight is a fourth-generation blockchain network. We focus on data protection. What does that mean? Well, we use zero-knowledge technology to protect data and metadata. We have a shielded ledger that allows you to put confidential information on-chain. But we also have an unshielded ledger that allows you to put public information on-chain. That means you can mix both private and public information together, giving you selective disclosure. But protecting data is not enough. You want to also protect metadata. So we got a shielded token, you've probably heard of it, called Dust, that allows you to transact with privacy. But we all know that shielded tokens sometimes have a challenge getting to liquidity. So we actually have a second token, an unshielded token, to provide network liquidity and security. Together, working those in hybrid as well as dual tokenomics, you can get various use cases as well as multiple paths to ensure that you are both compliant with regulatory requirement and have the best of both worlds. But we knew that having a great blockchain is not going to be enough. There's a matter of adoption. So we talked with enterprises about what makes them happy to get deployed and working and building apps on a blockchain. Well, we've added capability to give you SLA. You can guarantee capacity and always know that you have access to the resources. We have the ability to provide price predictability, so you can budget and know how much it's going to cost to run an application on this infrastructure next year. And that means also that you can have a gas station that is not just an ad hoc conversion from fiat to tokens, but can give you a rate card. So you can actually use this blockchain like a cloud service, paying with fiat and accessing it like a regular cloud service that you're familiar with. This means that everybody can now access this kind of technology. You have a cloud service powered by a fourth-generation blockchain network. Now, I started my career as a developer, and I know how hard is it to learn a new domain-specific language, and there's no shortage of them out there. Midnight wanted to make developers happy as well, so our smart contract language is based on TypeScript. And for the hard stuff, the zero-knowledge circuits, we've got Lego building blocks. And we've got the tooling like faucets and wallets and Visual Studio plugins and everything else that you need. So data protection, customer-friendly, developer-friendly. Charles just talked about his vision for partnership. Midnight is looking to be a partner chain to Cardano. A partner is, both sides get something. It has to be a win-win. So we would like to leverage the ecosystem of Cardano to help us go to market and get to decentralized fast. In exchange, we will provide SPOs and exchanges with both new revenue sources as well as incentives. We will provide developers with use cases and a fund to help them create more interoperability between the networks. And, as was shared last year, I believe everybody here is an ADA holder. ADA holders will get a token drop for midnight, so everybody can get access to this utility. Now, about a month ago, we opened up our registration for DevNet, and I couldn't be happier to see over 1,000 engineering teams that actually signed up for the Midnight DevNet. There's a little sign of a clock there. The countdown is starting because in 10 days, November 13th, mark the date, we're going to start onboarding teams onto our DevNet. And I know that some of you are going to be maybe disappointed because you couldn't get in on the first day, but trust me, we're adding more and more resources so we can have everybody both on DevNet, testnet, and hopefully also on the mainnet. I want to thank Charles and everybody here. A friend of mine once said, "Wonders I can do, miracles take time." It's been 5 years in development for Midnight. The team, Midnight team, you guys rock. Cardano family, thank you for having us. We look to partnering with you, and if you see me in the next 2 days, please come say hi. We'd love to hear from you and make this a win-win for all of us. Thank you.
Pretty amazing. 5 years come together to this moment. And it's just the beginning if you think about it, because that's just one of soon to be dozens, soon to be hundreds, hopefully thousands of partner chains in the service layer. All with freedom and all doing interesting, really cool things. Midnight's near and dear to my heart because it preserves and protects our freedoms. And at the same time, it gives us the ability to merge two worlds that are right now radically incompatible with each other. The traditional finance world says, oh, regulation is easy for crypto. Just centralize everything. Then we're good. We're like, well, I don't think you know what that D means and everything. And the cryptocurrency space says, oh, well, trillions of dollars should just flow around. Who cares? There has to be some sort of synthesis, like Hegel would say with a Hegelian synthesis. And this is the point. It's the most Hegelian of all products that we have. It's both public and private, UTXO and account. It's fourth generation, meaning that it has multiple consensus protocols, not just one. It leverages the fact that its backbone of security is the most reliable blockchain ever built forever. But at the same time, it can add additional capabilities to accelerate things like roll-ups. As brand new crypto that's invented and uses old crypto as well. It's a pretty magical thing to think about how 5 years can be summed up and put together under such a great leadership team and such a great group of developers. And the fact that it's so accessible and already 1,000 have signed up just in the first cohort and things are moving quickly, it tells you that our future is very bright. So the third generation, interoperability, governance, and scalability, we got it done. And the fourth generation is about taking over all the services of the world and making sure that they stay forever as decentralized and can't fail. Thank you so much.